Ladies and gentlemen, life is a journey full of twists and turns, highs and lows, victories and challenges. But no matter where you find yourself, one thing remains constant. God is faithful. Trusting Him in every situation is not just a choice. It's a declaration that says, I believe in something greater than myself. Today, I want to remind you of the power, the peace, and the purpose that comes when you trust God completely. Trust begins where understanding ends. Life often places us in situations where logic and reasoning fail to provide comfort or clarity. These moments of confusion and uncertainty can leave us feeling powerless, frustrated, and overwhelmed. But it is precisely in these moments that trust in God takes root and grows. Trusting God does not require a full understanding of your circumstances. In fact, it often requires the opposite, a willingness to admit that we don't have all the answers and may never fully grasp His plan. When you sit on a chair, you trust it will hold your weight. You don't examine the bolts or question its design. You simply sit because you believe it was made to support you. Trusting God operates in the same way. You may not see how the details of your life fit together, but you can trust that God's design is perfect. His ways are higher than ours, and His wisdom surpasses our understanding. 5:6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. This verse doesn't say to trust God only when things make sense or when life is going smoothly. It challenges us to trust Him wholeheartedly, especially when logic and reason cannot provide answers. When life feels uncertain, fear and doubt often creep in, whispering questions like, what if I fail? Or what if things never get better? Trusting God means silencing those doubts with faith, declaring that even though you don't see the full picture, you believe in the artist who's painting it. It's an act of surrender, saying, God, I don't understand why this is happening, but I trust that you are good, and your plan for me is good. It's my distinction to make. Our trust in God doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It means acknowledging the difficulties while choosing to believe that God's power is greater than your problems. Trust doesn't erase the challenges, but it gives you the strength to face them with confidence, knowing you are not alone. Think about the story of Abraham in the Bible. God told him to leave his home and go to a land that He would show him. A destination Abraham didn't even know. Yet Abraham obeyed, trusting that God would guide him. His trust wasn't based on understanding, but on faith in God's character. That same faith is available to you today. Trust in God grows strongest when tested. It's easy to trust when life is smooth, but true faith is revealed in the trials. When you're standing at the edge of uncertainty, take that leap of faith. Trust that God's hands will catch you, guide you, and carry you forward. Remember, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to trust the one who already does. God's timing is not our timing. In a world driven by instant gratification, waiting can feel like an eternity. We become accustomed to quick results. A tap of a button delivers food. A swipe on a screen connects us to friends, and a simple search yields answers. But God's timing operates on an entirely different level. His plans unfold according to His perfect schedule, not our rushed expectations. Trusting God means embracing His timing, even when it doesn't align with ours. One of the most challenging aspects of faith is waiting on God. It's in the waiting that doubt and impatience can creep in, making us question His presence or His promises. But let's take a moment to reflect on what waiting truly means in God's eyes. Waiting is not a punishment. It's a process. It's during these seasons of waiting that God is often doing His greatest work, both in us and around us. The Bible provides countless examples of God's timing being different, but always perfect. Consider the story of Joseph. He was sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned. For years, Joseph's life seemed to be a series of setbacks. Yet during that time, God was preparing him for a greater purpose: to become a leader in Egypt and save countless lives during a famine. If Joseph had rushed the process or given up in frustration, he would have missed the incredible plan God had for him. We're reminded of this truth in Ecclesiastes 1. which says to everything, there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Just as the seasons change in their appointed time, so too do the circumstances of our lives. When we rush ahead of God, we risk stepping out of alignment with His will. But when we wait on Him, we open ourselves to blessings that are far greater than anything we could have imagined or achieved on our own. Waiting on God requires patience and trust, but it also calls for action. Waiting doesn't mean sitting idly by doing nothing. It means preparing your heart, staying faithful in prayer, and being ready to act when He opens the right door. Trusting His timing means believing that He knows what's best for you, even when the delay feels difficult. It's pretty wins, but they wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Waiting on God doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you. It refines your character, deepens your faith, and prepares you for what lies ahead. If you're in a season of waiting, take heart. God's timing may not align with your calendar, but it is never late. Trust that He is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. The delay you're experiencing is not a denial. It's divine preparation for something greater. Remember, God's timing is always worth the wait. Storms are opportunities, not obstacles. Life's storms are inevitable. They come without warning, disrupting our plans and testing our resolve. Storms can take many forms: financial struggles, health crises, broken relationships, or even moments of deep uncertainty. In these moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, questioning why God would allow such challenges. But here's the truth. Storms are not obstacles meant to break you. They are opportunities designed to shape you. When you find yourself in the midst of a storm, the first instinct is often to escape it as quickly as possible. We pray for immediate relief, hoping that God will calm the winds and waves instantly. But sometimes, instead of removing the storm, God allows it to strengthen us. He uses the storm to grow our faith, deepen our dependence on Him, and prepare us for a greater purpose. Consider the story of the disciples in the boat during the storm on the Sea of Galilee, Mark 5:41. Jesus was with them, but He was asleep as the waves crashed against the boat. Panicked, the disciples woke Him, crying out, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Jesus stood, rebuked the wind, and calmed the sea, asking them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The storm wasn't about testing their sailing skills. It was about strengthening their trust in Him. The same applies to us. When storms arise, they challenge us to look beyond our own strength and place our faith in God's power. It's in these moments that we realize He is our anchor, the unshakable foundation that holds us steady when everything else is. Storms also reveal who we truly are. When the winds blow and the rain falls, the superficial things in our lives are stripped away, exposing what we're truly made of. It's during these times that God refines us, removing what doesn't belong and building us into the people He created us to be. Consider pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. The storm you're facing isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to develop you. It's also important to remember that you are never alone in the storm. God's presence is with you, guiding you, protecting you, and giving you peace that surpasses all understanding. Just as Jesus calmed the storm for the disciples, He has the power to calm the storms in your life. And even if He doesn't calm the storm right away, He will calm you within it. So, the next time a storm arises, don't ask, "Why me?" Instead, ask, "What is God teaching me through this?" Embrace the opportunity to grow, to trust, and to lean into His strength. Storm may be fierce, but remember, storm has an end, and on the other side is a stronger, wiser, and more faithful version of you. Your purpose is bigger than your pain, is a universal experience. Whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, every person encounters seasons of difficulty that feel overwhelming. But pain, as crushing as it may seem, is not without purpose. God never wastes pain. Instead, he uses it to refine us, teach us, and prepare us for the greater calling he has placed on our lives. When you're in the midst of pain, it's easy to lose sight of your purpose. The hurt can be so intense that it blinds you to anything beyond the moment. But here's the truth. Your pain does not define you. Your purpose does. God sees your pain, and he also sees the bigger picture. He knows what he is shaping you into and how your current struggles are leading to future victories. Consider the story of Job, a man who endured unimaginable pain and loss. In a matter of moments, Job lost his wealth, his health, and even his family. Yet through his suffering, he clung to his faith. Job's story is a reminder that even when life seems unbearable, God is still at work. Job's pain was not the end of his story. It was part of a larger narrative that ultimately revealed God's faithfulness and restored everything Job had lost, many times over. The Apostle Paul also understood the connection between pain and purpose. In Romans 19, he wrote, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." Paul faced countless trials, imprisonment, beatings, shipwrecks. Yet he remained steadfast because he understood that his pain was temporary, but God's purpose was eternal. Your pain may feel overwhelming, but trust that it is not wasted. Every tear, every heartbreak, every setback is a stepping stone toward your greater purpose. God uses pain to strengthen your character, deepen your faith, and prepare you to fulfill the unique calling he has placed on your life. Pain is also a tool that allows you to connect with others. Your struggles often become the very testimony that inspires and uplifts someone else. When you allow God to work through your pain, he transforms it into a message of hope, reminding others that they too can overcome. 2 Corinthians 1. Well, reminds us that God comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Here's something to remember. Ardents are formed under pressure, gold is refined in fire, and muscles grow through resistance. Likewise, your pain is preparing you for something greater. It's shaping you into the person God created you to be, someone capable of walking boldly in their purpose. So when pain comes, don't give up. Don't let the temporary hardships overshadow the eternal promises. Trust that God is working all things together for your good, Romans 28. Your purpose is bigger than your pain, and what's waiting on the other side of this struggle is a future filled with hope, strength, and divine fulfillment. Keep going. You are being prepared for greatness. Faith requires action, not just words. Faith is more than a feeling or a belief. It's a commitment that requires action. It's easy to say, "I trust God," when everything is going well. But true faith shows itself in how you respond when life is uncertain, when the road ahead is unclear, or when you're standing face to face with challenges that seem insurmountable. Faith that remains idle is incomplete. Faith demands that we move forward even when we don't have all the answers. But the Bible tells us in James 2:26, faith without works is dead. This doesn't mean that our actions earn God's grace. His grace is freely given, but it does mean that our faith should inspire us to step out, to act boldly, and to trust God even in the face of uncertainty. Faith is not passive. It's active. It's stepping out of the boat and walking on the water, as Peter did, even when it doesn't make sense. Consider the story of David and Goliath. David didn't just trust that God would deliver him from Goliath. He acted on that trust. He picked up his sling and 5 smooth stones, took aim, and faced the giant head on. David's faith wasn't just words. It was backed by action. He trusted that God would guide his steps. And because of that trust, he achieved a victory that seemed impossible to others. Faith-driven action doesn't mean you won't feel fear. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty. But faith calls us to move forward despite the fear, trusting that God will meet us where we are and provide what we need. When God called Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses felt inadequate and afraid. Yet he acted in obedience, and God performed miracles through him. Faith-driven action also requires perseverance. Sometimes you won't see immediate results. You may pray, step out in faith, and still find yourself waiting. But acting in faith means continuing to trust, continuing to obey, and continuing to move forward, even when the outcome is not yet visible. Take the story of Noah as an example. God told Noah to build an ark in preparation for a flood, even though there was no sign of rain. Noah acted on faith, building the ark over many years despite ridicule and doubt from others. His faith was not just in what he said, he believed. It was evident in what he did. And in the end, his faith-driven action saved his family and fulfilled God's plan. Faith is trusting God enough to move forward, even when you don't know where the path leads. It's taking that leap, not because you see the safety net, but because you trust the one who told you to jump. If you're facing a decision or challenge today, ask yourself, what step of faith can I take? It doesn't have to be a giant leap. Sometimes faith is as simple as taking the next small step. Remember, God honors faith in action. When you trust Him enough to move, He will guide your steps, open doors, and make a way where there seems to be none. Faith isn't just believing. Faith is doing. Trusting God brings peace beyond understanding. In a world full of chaos, uncertainty, and challenges, peace can often feel out of reach. We search for it in people, possessions, and plans, yet true peace seems elusive. That's because real, lasting peace doesn't come from our circumstances. It comes from God. When you place your trust in Him, you're no longer relying on your own strength or understanding. Instead, you're leaning on the one who holds the universe in His hands, and in doing so, you find a peace that surpasses all comprehension. Book 7 captures this truth beautifully. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Notice the promise here. It's not that life will be free from trouble, but that God's peace will guard you in the midst of it. This peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It allows you to stand firm when the world around you is shaking. It keeps you steady when others are panicking. When you trust God, you're no longer controlled by fear, worry, or doubt. Instead, you're anchored in His presence, knowing that He is working all things together for your good. Consider the story of Daniel and the lions. Daniel said unwavering trust, and God gave him peace, even as he faced what seemed like certain death. Instead of panicking, Daniel prayed and trusted that God would deliver him. And God did. The same peace that Daniel experienced is available to us today when we put our faith in God. Trusting in God doesn't mean that storms won't come. It means that the storms won't control you. Life's challenges may still arise, but they lose their power to rob you of your joy and your calm. When you trust in God, you're no longer trying to navigate the complexities of life on your own. You're walking hand in hand with the Creator, who knows the end from the beginning and has promised to never leave or forsake you. This trust isn't about denying reality or ignoring difficulties. It's about choosing to focus on God's promises rather than the problems. It's about remembering that He is bigger than any obstacle and His peace is stronger than any storm. Isaiah 26 reminds us, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Practical steps to cultivate this peace include consistent prayer, immersing yourself in God's Word, and surrounding yourself with others who encourage your faith. As you draw closer to God, you'll find that His peace becomes a natural response even in the face of uncertainty. If you've been searching for peace, stop looking outward, start looking upward. Trusting in God doesn't mean you'll avoid the valleys, but it does mean you'll never walk through them alone. Let His peace fill your heart and guide your steps. Because when you trust Him completely, you'll discover a calm that no circumstance can take away. This is the peace that only God can give, a peace that passes all understanding. Trust God in every situation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this journey, let's reflect on what it truly means to trust God in every situation. Life will always present us with its share of joys and sorrows, triumphs and trials. But through it all, one truth remains unshakable. God is faithful. He is with you in the good times, and He is holding you even tighter in the storms. Trusting God doesn't mean we'll have all the answers or avoid the challenges. It means surrendering our plans to His purpose, our fears to His promises, and our doubts to His divine guidance. It's about acknowledging that His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Remember, every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow in faith, to deepen your relationship with Him and to become the person He has called you to be. Your struggles are not the end of your story. They are the beginning of something greater. So as you step out into the world, I challenge you to live with the kind of trust that moves mountains, the kind of faith that takes action, and the kind of hope that brings peace beyond understanding. Let your life be a testimony of God's faithfulness, showing others that no matter how dark the night, His light is always shining. Place your trust in God, and you will see Him work in ways you never imagined. He will strengthen you, guide you, and lead you to a future filled with purpose, peace, and victory. Trust Him in every situation because He is worthy of that trust. And when you do, you'll discover the abundant life He's been waiting to give you, a life rooted in His love, sustained by His grace, and filled with His unshakable peace. Thank you, and may God bless you richly as you trust Him with all your heart.